Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Lunar Magic tutorial. Now, if this is your first time watching this specific tutorial, I recommend that you go back to the original video where we talked about how to just get started with Lunar Magic, and that's if you have not touched Lunar Magic at all. But if you just want to learn the level design, this is the perfect tutorial for you, because we're going to go ahead and talk about a whole bunch of different things regarding level design, how to place custom things. Now you will notice everything here. If you don't have that stuff, don't worry, everything's down in the description except for Super Mario World ROM that you will have to provide on your own. So I cannot provide that for you, but hopefully you have that ROM. Anyway guys, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button for future videos on the channel, and let's begin. So the first thing we're going to do is open up Lunar Magic. And the first thing that you're going to notice is that we have to open up our game. So we're going to go here with the ROM. As you can see, this is pretty much how our level looks. This is level 105 in Super Mario World. And if we open up the level editor, which we're going to touch in a different episode, so don't worry about that. 105 should be one of these levels, and all you can do just to check and view which tile it is to just press show level numbers, and as you can see, 105 is over here, so that's like the first level of the game. We don't need to worry about that much. All we need to worry about is that we can customize this a lot. So what you can do in this level editor is you can move things around, especially like ground devices, but you'll also notice that you can't click on like Rex, or you can't click on, say, this mushroom here. Reason for that being is that if you want to click on it, you have to go up here, and then you have to click the shell, and then that will allow you to just highlight only entities. So that's what that button does. And if you click this button, which is the ground, you'll be able to pick up everything else. And that's just a simple way in how the actual editing works. So what we can do is let's just build a custom level. So let's delete the ground. I think that looks good. You also notice these are secondary entries. Those you don't need. So why don't we actually get rid of those? So what we're gonna do is go here. We need this though, because then there'll be no area for Mario to actually spawn, so that might be a problem. So we can get rid of all these things. That's like the midway entrance. That's where he will spawn. If there's like a halfway point or something, you can always change it to do those things. Well, let's just get rid of this stuff. There's some stuff at the top here we can get. So you can see we have a pretty boring level. Just delete this push. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna click the add objects. And as you can see in this little window, we have a whole bunch of different blocks. Now all of these are scalable, so that means that you can take one and you can you have to right click to place stuff, and you can left click and then right click again, and then that's how you duplicate. So it's really easy that you can duplicate stuff. That's what makes levels easier to create. But you'll notice that this is scalable only to some degree. Now this is not what we want, to create a ground. Now you can create a ground out of that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to be a lot more difficult. So what we need to do is we need to find the very wide scale ground ledge. This will allow us to do a further distance. So that's what basically the ground in Super Mario World is made out of. So as you can see, we can make it pretty long. It doesn't scale down very much, and that's what you'll probably notice. But it does go to a limit as well, so just because you see it going a certain distance doesn't mean it's gonna go all the way as well. So, but what we can do, we can just, you know, left click and right click. And as you can see, we have it again, and as you can see, there's a very big level. So next what we want to do is actually just start placing some things in. So why don't we take a look at the ledge here. So the ledge you can just place, right, you can put it down here as well. There's different specific pieces. For example, there's like a solid top left, and top facing bottom. So there's specific ones that you might want to choose. Like for example, that allows you to have a nice curve. And don't forget, this is collision here. So you can walk. There's like different ones that he can walk through them, or he can hit the wall and, you know, be forced to go up, or forced to go back the other way. So why don't we get the other one? So we need this one, and these are all scalable very nicely as well. Makes it nice and simple to make levels with. You also have walk through dirt as well. So let's say we want to make a level, and I mean there's a whole bunch of different pieces. You probably want to use these things if you're going to make a level or something similar to Super Mario Bros. 2, where you have those kind of platforms. So we can get some of those. So there's the left edge. He'll be able to walk through. This is kind of, that has no collision. But we have to use these things, which actually give us the collision. So once we have that, and you can also just scale these down too. That's an easier way too. But like this can be also simple because, you know, you have those parts, and I mean it's the exact same way. I just kind of made it more work for myself, but you can do whatever I want. There's no like, I mean there is some things that you have to do specifically correct, but there's no like right way to do everything. So as you can see, we have some basic stuff, and why don't we just place a lot more stuff down. So I'll see you in a little bit after this time lapse of me just placing random things, trying to think of something that actually looks good. So why don't we continue? And as you can see, we kind of have a decent looking just platform level, something simple to show you. But one thing I did want to cover on is that, as you noticed, sometimes you will place something, and it might look like it's out. For example, you know, your scroll, you'll be able to just scale it in the foreground or the background. This is really helpful for a ton of things. For example, the flagpole might look like this, but you just have to scroll, or even you can press the minus and plus. Those also work very easily, and they just help you scale back, and you will use that a lot when you're designing levels. And also, another thing, you could also copy and paste a large area just by like selecting it all, copy, and then just like copy and then pasting it. So there's a lot to do when it comes to level design. Like, trust me, there is a lot of stuff here. But you just have to kind of figure out all the pieces, and this is not very difficult to place all this stuff down. But you also sometimes might get a block and then put it in here, and you might see some corruption happening. When you see that, just don't really bother doing anything to fix that, because you're always going to have those problems when you're combining those certain objects together, which is why I recommend that just kind of fool around, see what works, see what doesn't. You may be able to, I mean, if you want to do something very specific, you may have to deal with one tile missing or halfway there, but yeah, sometimes you won't have two objects like in the background or something like that. For example, we can't do anything about that, can we? So now that we have a basic level, we can add some slopes. Now, slopes are very important, and these allow us to do really, really complex things. So why don't we build one right here? So we're just gonna build a simple slope, and there's different slopes. Just kind of fool around different slopes to try to figure out which ones work well for you. There are a whole bunch of different ones. Now, they also scale. Some of them scale, some of them don't. So you do have to play around with that. Some of them might look a little different than others. But it's all about playing around. For example, here's a slope. And why don't we put this slope somewhere over here. So you can see we can make it bigger. And we can also maybe move this section. And then that. This is the ledge, so I can't scale it down. So sometimes you will come into problems like that where it's like, oh no, I can't do this, or I can't do this. So you will come into those types of issues as well. But like I said, it's just also a trial and error, trying to figure out different ideas. So that's also really fun about making levels. You kind of sometimes just you wing a level, you don't really understand how it's going to look like, but it just ends up looking like something interesting at the end. Anyway, why don't we put some coins? And coins aren't entities, but what makes them really cool is that you can scale a large amount. So if you want to make one of those really insane levels where you have like a whole bunch of coins, instead of placing all those coins individually, now you have a large area that you can expand and have a whole bunch of coins. So why don't we put some coins here, for example? We can put some coins there. You also have a whole bunch of like invisible blocks, turn blocks. There's like a whole bunch of different blocks. So let's put some here. You can also move them up and down. Let's just think how a Mario level is made, because there's a lot of cool Mario levels. You also have the regular coin blocks as well. Put one up there. You have throw blocks. The pipes, sometimes you will have a pipe that maybe doesn't actually have like an exit or something like that, so you may go to like a special room and never be able to get out. There are little problems like that happen, so do be aware of those things, because I've had to test a lot of my ROM hack, and I've run into a lot of issues with those kind of things. So just be careful when you're doing those kind of things, and making sure that you don't make the game difficult or impossible. But you'll notice a lot of blocks here, you know, are kind of strange, like these. That's because it doesn't have the correct textures. So you might see like something, oh, it says Yoshi's Island or something for this. That means it might be like in a different texture area that this is not accessing, and that's what usually is happening. You will get into that stuff once we talk about like custom graphics and map 16 files. We will definitely cover those things, but overall that's it. But just play around with the different blocks and items, kind of like Mario Maker has a whole bunch of different things. Here we also have some special ones. For example, we have a coin block with blue/silver PAL inside. So you may notice these, and these are the blocks where it's like you hit it, and then all these coins summon. So why don't we get some of those coins? And I think they should be purple somewhere here. Also, another thing that you'll know, especially with some specific things, like you'll see the pipes. Sometimes depending on where you place it on the y-axis, you will notice that it changes different colors. So for example, you might see it looking different here, then it might look different over here, like see it's a different color. That's just how they make it, so there's not like a whole bunch, so it just changes the color palette. So that does happen, so also do be aware of that, as sometimes you might place and be like, why is it a different color here and different color there? Well, it's just the way the game is designed to do those kind of pipes and stuff. You'll also notice with the PAL blocks, some other things here and there. Why don't we place some of these arches? I think that could look pretty cool. You have the big pipe, diagonal one. But I can't really find a good place to put it. Just get rid of this, actually. You also notice deleting is very easy as well. This is a very easy game ROM hack maker. Like, honestly, it's the easiest one out there as of right now, at least I think. But, you know, like, there's a whole bunch of cool blocks that you can play as, like, these very cool directional coins that spawn direction of coins. Here we have a turn block with flower inside. Now you notice there's no mushroom. That's because the flower inside is the mushroom. So now what we're gonna do is just save it to level 105. It will ask you to do it. You also see like, oh, there's this and this and this. So just be careful. So now we're just gonna. You can also save the level as well. So say you want to save the file as world new or something, or world, let's just call this tutorial, right? So let's call tutorial and put it in our tutorial. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our emulator, since it doesn't have a built-in emulator, but you can attach an emulator. So like, to see like setup emulator. So if you haven't done that, maybe you should. It can work with a whole bunch of emulators. Right now I'm using, I believe it's SNES 9GX. So that's what we're using right now. As you can see, the game is working. We will cover a whole bunch of things that you can change to the title screen as well in the future as well, because those are very important things that you should know to create your very own custom Mario World ROM hack. That's maybe not as much of just a simple level hack, right? Because that's mostly a lot of the hacks. So let's go to level 105, which is right here. So as you can see, here's our level, and why don't we start by playing it? You notice that these blocks are empty, so they have nothing, and you can also customize those. But let's just block, and as you can see, the one with the flower inside, that's it. And it's actually not a flower, it's a mushroom, but if you're already have the mushroom, then it will give you a flower. So it's kind of built like that, the game, to give you a certain item once you already are in a certain state. You will have to play test your ROM hacks a lot. So do definitely know that you'll have to play test ROM hacks like dozens and dozens of times, because you want to make sure that it's actually playable and not just work. And there's our directional coins. That's nice. So as you can see, the level works. That's our ending of the level as well. Simple, easy, and nice. So why don't we go and add some enemies? So just clicking on the add sprites window, we can add some like Koopas and stuff. And I accidentally hadn't clicked the shell. So why don't we add some enemies, and I'll see you guys back in a bit. So as you can see, we actually got a bit of a level. So why don't we go ahead and play this in our emulator. So let's run the ROM. I've added a lot of different entities and sprites, so hopefully we'll be able to see them all. Like for example, some specific things will, like I said, outlet with the different y-axis. So I might be able to spawn a whole bunch of different enemies depending on the y-axis. And as you can see, we have some exploding blocks, which is pretty cool. We also have a baby Yoshi that eats stuff, so so we can pick that up. And a whole bunch of random things. You will also notice that different levels have different items and enemies. So that does also occur. So don't just pick a level, because you can actually, it doesn't really matter the spot it's on. You can literally just duplicate this level over and over again. In like a whole bunch of different like tiles on the overworld map. So there's no like sayings like, oh okay, you can only have like this many type of this world. You can have all of them the same. So you can kind of play around with that. We'll talk about more of that when we get into the overworld, because I will teach you guys how to make your own specific overworld and everything. But overall, this is pretty much the bulk of making levels. It's nothing hard. If you played Mario Maker, this is actually, I think, a little bit easier than Mario Maker. It's more complex, but it's not as frustrating. That's what I have to say. It's not frustrating because it's so simple. And you guys can play around with a whole bunch of different ideas with doors, midway points. You can have like the Yoshi coins, and it's a very, very easy program to understand. So that's pretty much it. I think that's all about covering. We've talked about all the different kinds of layers, different kind of objects, talking about the different kinds of items. We also have like a lot of the objects. You guys can probably need to just search up what they do, what don't they do, like kind of just figure that out. Also, another thing, you also see sometimes the tile map editor, and you'd be like, why can't I just place this in? And sometimes you will be able to place these. These are just basically tiles. What this does is it combines all the tiles together and makes something unique. But you can use these to build something custom. For example, say you do want like a custom looking, like you want a custom, I don't know, like pipe or something. You can make that using the map 16. It's not necessary, but it's whatever you want to do really. So you can also try those. It's nothing important, but you can try that as well. But that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, as usual, leave them down in the comments section below. And anyway, I will see you guys next time. And don't forget, everything is in the description, so do check out all the files down there. Anyway guys, that brings us to the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and all the links are down in the description, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.